Today we will discuss one of the nations of the Old Testament in the history of man, Philistia. In Hebrew its name is Philistine, and that means emigrants. It comes from the word emigrate, which is plisht. The root of the word in Hebrew means invader. There are no vowels in the Hebrew language, yet to compose words in different languages they are typically added to guide the reader about their pronunciation. We must emphasize that the name Philistine comes from the Latin Philisteus, which is a variation of Philistinus. While in Egyptian they would be classified Puriseshu or Paleset. One of the first mentions we have of them can be found in Egypt. Portrayed in the papyrus called the Great Harris Papyrus, which is in the British Museum. There they are referenced as the peoples of the sea, and the narrative features the most extraordinary accomplishments of the management of the reign of Ramesses III. It additionally portrays how he crushed them after various burdensome fights. Many samples were taken from a graveyard that was situated in the city of Ashkelon, a city in Israel. And curiously, DNA tests established that they didn't hereditarily relate to the occupants of the area. Actuality, their features were like the ancient individuals who lived in the Aegean Sea. One more remarkable characteristic that can be considered is that the craftsmanship that can be recuperated from the region is more like the Greek than to that of the Levant. We can likewise feature the way that their blacksmithing techniques were unique around there, giving us to comprehend that almost certainly, they came from the Aegean Islands. This would justify how they could maintain the mystery for such a long time. In the book of Jasher, or otherwise called the book of Yasher, we are told in chapter 7, verse 34, how there was war between the sons of Japheth and the descendants of Ham. The reasons are not clear to us, however, it is referenced that there have always been conflicts in the region. Be that as it may, by appreciating the geographical area where the conflicts developed, we can appreciate how each town spread, giving rise to numerous nations. So, with the eventual result of becoming strangers to one another as the years go by. Since 1600 before Christ, the Levant region was dominated by Egypt in its southern area. While in the waterfront part, they migrated the prisoners who were caught from the ocean towns. The Egyptians had an incredible triumph since they had technology that was further developed. By the 1200s the Bronze Age finished, and the individuals who had the capacity to smelt and work iron were precisely the people of the ocean. By having mastery over iron, they had a superiority in tools, which made their war chariots, blades, and armor unrivaled. Along these lines, they had the option to confront enormous armies, regardless of whether they had not many soldiers. Albeit the expression, Philistine, is viewed as a denigrating insult to the Hebrews, it didn't allude to ignorance or absence of culture, since as we mentioned a few moments ago, they had the best technology in the region for a considerable length of time. They were very known for their ironworking abilities and amazing strongholds. Here we can incorporate the imposing city-state of Gaza, which was one of the strongest and most powerful cities in the region. When they settled there, Egypt could never again control them, and neither could some other nation for a long while. Being a hostile people, they raided neighboring nations to plunder frequently. The Philistines were in conflict with the adjoining Israelites almost all the time, who considered them to be a danger to their independence and sovereignty. The most well-known conflict between the Philistines and Israelites was the fight among David and Goliath. We can find this biblical story in 1 Samuel 17. In spite of the fact that there were consistent conflicts among them, the Philistines likewise pertinently affected Israelite culture and religion, such as the introduction of new religious practices. We can likewise see these same conflicts in Samson's time. He became attracted to a Philistine woman named Delilah, who causes him to reveal his weakness, which is that if they cut off his hair then he would lose his strength. Samson, regardless of having defeated numerous Philistines, ended up losing his life in their temple as a prisoner. Israel was always weak before the deities and culture of Philistia, so when they turned away from the Lord, they fell into the hands of their enemies. The Philistines subdued the Hebrew nation on various events, and oppressed them. As they blended in with the Canaanites, they not only adopted many things from their culture, but several times they established alliances against Israel. The Philistines laid out a progression of city-states along the coast, like Ashkelon, Gaza, Ekron, and Gath. Every one of these city-states was governed by independent kings, who established councils to make decisions involving more than one of their cities. They also had religious autonomy, varying in some of their deities. Religion assumed a vital part in Philistine culture. Over time, their religious beliefs and practices were influenced by the different cultures around them, including the Egyptians, Hittites, and Mesopotamians. The Philistines revered a pantheon of gods and goddesses, a large number of which were connected with regular powers, like the ocean, the sky, and the underworld. The most important deity for the Philistines was Dagon, god of agriculture and fishing. This was represented as a man with a fish tail, and was venerated in his time as the patron god of the Philistines. Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, and Asherah, the goddess of fertility and motherhood, were also other deities quite notable and important to the Philistines. The Philistines made human sacrifices as a method for pacifying their gods, and in this way guarantee their blessings. They likewise believed in the existence of demons and other supernatural creatures, so they looked for the assistance of sorcerers and seers to shield themselves from these evil forces. Over the long run, the people of Israel adopted their beliefs and practices. Regardless of polytheistic beliefs, the Philistines didn't have a centralized religious system, and every city worshipped its own set of gods. Religion assumed a critical part in Philistine culture, forming their beliefs and practices. Its pantheon of gods and goddesses, as well as its beliefs in human sacrifices, demons and other supernatural creatures, reveal a great religious heritage that has had a lasting impact on the region and the world. In spite of the fact that they are continually referenced in the biblical records, other writings also talk about them, in this way giving veracity to what is written in the Bible. Its destruction was prophesied by the prophet Jeremiah, who announced what the end of said people would be. Under the reign of Tiglath-Pileser III, Philistia is vanquished and afterward totally bulldozed to the ground by Nebuchadnezzar II, around 600 before Christ. It other than the vestiges were gone. No element was preserved that would help comprehend or characterize their language, nor their culture. The broadest source of data about them that is accessible is the Bible, in addition to depictions from different cultures that portray them as a hostile group. What stayed in said region was nothing more and nothing less than its name, which was subsequently used by the Roman Empire as a topographical reference for the region. As well as the Egyptian, Assyrian, Babylonian authentic records and the Bible. Because of the day that comes to plunder all the Philistines, to cut off from Tyre and Sidon every helper who remains, for the Lord shall plunder the Philistines, the remnant of the country of Caphtor. Jeremiah 47 verse 4.